Hey friend, welcome back to Lifestyle School, the podcast where we talk about how to live life that's healthy, sustainable, and that actually works for you, not just in theory, but in real life. And if you've ever felt overwhelmed by life's demands, if you've ever snapped at your kids and instantly felt guilty, I'm over here raising my hand. If you've ever lain in bed at night with a racing mind and a tired body wondering, why can't I handle this better? Today's episode is for you because today we're talking about stress and not in the generic, just relax kind of way, but in a deeply honest, science-backed, and practical way that will help you rethink how stress is showing up in your life and what you can actually do about it. So I want to start with a question or maybe a challenge. And that is, what if stress isn't the enemy? What if it is how we respond to it? Sorry, I said that wrong. What if how we respond to it is the real issue? I'm going to say that again because I messed it up. But what if stress isn't the enemy? What if how we respond to it is the real issue? So this isn't just about a mindset shift. This is what cutting edge research is showing us. And one of those powerful voices in the space of stress is Dr. Elissa Epel. She's a health psychologist who spent her life studying stress, aging, metabolism, and resilience. And I was introduced to her via the Huberman Lab podcast. I live in the Bay Area. I think she actually is a researcher at Stanford. And we have a connection with Stanford through my husband. So it's, just small world, kind of fun to be able to learn from her and feel like she's so close in proximity to me. But so she has an amazing podcast on the Huberman Lab show. It was done a couple years ago. You should definitely go look that up. But she also read a book called The Stress Prescription. And she lays out a way to stop fearing stress and to start working with it. And I think this is really powerful. And so today I'm going to break down her key ideas and add in some of what I've seen with my clients, and then give you the 7 tools you can start using right now to change your relationship with stress. So grab your tea, lace up your walking shoes, or settle in while folding laundry if you're anything like me, and let's dive into it. But before we do, again, a quick disclaimer as always. I want you to know I'm not a medical doctor. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult with your doctor before making health changes. So, and another little note before we get into it, if you haven't already, follow the podcast, subscribe, leave a review. That would help me out immensely and mean the world. Share it with a friend. Okay, let's get into it. What I think we get wrong about stress. First, let's get clear on what we're actually talking about. That's always a good place to start, right? So when you hear the word stress, what comes to mind? I just want you to take a moment to think. If I say stress, what do you think of? I think for most of us, it's a negative connotation, right? It's anxiety, it's overwhelm, that tight feeling in your chest, that you have all this stuff to do and you can't get it done. Maybe headaches, maybe burnout, exhaustion. But I want to say this, stress itself is not inherently bad, right? Stress is a biological signal. What do I mean by that? It's your body's way of saying, hey, pay attention. Something needs your energy or your attention or your action here. And that's not always a bad thing, right? Because, when you give birth, what stress does is stress hormones help you push the baby out, which is really important, right? If you are giving a presentation, stress helps you stay alert. Again, really important. When you fast, there's a hormetic stress that stimulates healing in the body. Again, super important and healthy. And when you lift weights, that's a controlled stress that builds muscle, right? And so, I think the problem is not stress. What the problem is the chronic, unrelenting, unprocessed stress that we experience with no recovery. And that's the kind of stress that's hijacking our hormones, that's disrupting our metabolism, and it shrinks um, parts of our brain, which is actually crazy, and it accelerates aging. And most of us are living in that zone, not because of one big trauma, but because of this like drip, 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 drip of daily micro stresses. Things like as simple as our toddler not wanting to put their shoes on, or a text from our boss on a Saturday that doesn't really make sense and freaks you out a little bit. Or maybe it's constant notifications or decisions or responsibility, or maybe even just like the laundry that never seems to be done or caught up on. And so, one thing I really appreciate about Dr. Epel is she explains that this low grade, always on stress actually tricks our body into thinking it's under threat all the time, and our systems respond accordingly. And this is when, things like cortisol, our stress hormone, stays high. Therefore, our insulin stays high. Our body holds on to fat and inflammation, secondary to those two things. And then our brain stays in survival mode. And I can't tell you how many people I've worked with whose brains are just in survival mode. And that makes it incredibly hard to make the changes needed to get to a healthy weight and just to be healthy overall. And that's why it's so hard to just, quote unquote, just eat healthy or quote, just lose weight when you're living in that place, right? Your body is trying to protect you, and it's not going to release weight or energy until it feels safe. And so, I want to take a deeper look into this topic because it's super interesting, and I think like making a perspective shift around stress is super important to the process of getting the health, the life, getting to the weight that you want. And so, Dr. Epel discovered alongside Nobel laureate Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn something that these two women discovered really, I think, started to change our understanding of aging in the world of science and stress. And so what they found is that chronic physiological stress shortens our telomeres. And you're like, oh, what are telomeres? I've never used that word before. So what these are is they're the protective end caps on our DNA strands. So I think the best analogy I've heard to explain what they are is you could think of telomeres like the plastic tips on your shoelaces. When they wear down, the laces start to fray. And when your telomeres shorten, your cells age faster and you're more prone to disease. So, this like chronic physiological stress shortens our telomeres, or those caps on the end of our shoelaces, leading to disease and aging. But here is the hopeful part, is that they also found that stress resilience slows that aging process. So if you listen to episode, I believe it was 25, we talk about building stress resilience a little bit in that episode at the very end about doing hard things to build our capacity to deal with stress, to deal with hard things. But stress resilience slows the aging process, and people who practice things like mindfulness, emotional regulation, community connection, and recovery have longer telomeres, even if their lives were objectively stressful. So I want to say this again, because I think it's a really important thing. Because I think sometimes we can be like, oh, well, my life is super stressful with things that I can't control. And then we become a victim of our circumstances. But what this is saying is that no, you can build stress resilience. And then the people who practice building stress resilience by practicing things like mindfulness, regulating their emotions, people who build a beautiful community around themselves, and work for recovery, they actually have longer telomeres, so longer caps on the end of their DNA strands, which is super important to the health of their DNA, their longevity, and their prevention of disease, even if their lives were objectively stressful. So, you could be someone has a sick child, who's chronically ill, or maybe you're in a really hard relationship, or maybe, you have a lot of family stress, like that you just can't get rid of. Maybe you're in a job that's really hard and there's no quick exit. I think it's really easy in those types of situations to become a victim of your circumstance. But what I want you to feel listening to this is like, no, you are actually still in control. You still have agency and you still have power to affect how this stress is affecting your body physiologically. So, your health, your energy, and even your biological age are less about your circumstances and they're more about your response to them, okay? I'm going to say it again because I just think this is so important. Your health, your energy, and your biological age are less about your circumstances and like the stress you can't get away from in your life, and it's more about your response to them. And that should give every single person listening to this podcast just so much hope and encouragement because it's in your control, right? So now I want to talk about what to do with all of this. Dr. Epel's book, The 7-Day Stress Prescription, you can get it on Amazon. It's structured around a 7-day reset. And it's not just like feel better short term, but it's to work to retrain your stress response long term. And I just think there's like so many gems in here. So I'm going to walk you through like the 7 days, what she says to do. Because I just think there's a lot of gold in here. And honestly, it's like everything that we teach in lifestyle school. I read this book and I was like, wow, like we're doing something right here in lifestyle school. This is so great. So, day number 1 is, and I think this is foundational, you have to embrace uncertainty and change. And as a recovering control freak, wanting to control every little thing about every little part of my life, this is like day 1. You got to embrace uncertainty and change. Most of our stress comes from resisting what is, right? I'm just going to say that again. Most of our stress comes from resisting what is. Trying to control things that we frankly can't control and wishing the present moment were different than it is. But life is inherently uncertain. And if I will actually I'll be 35 when this podcast airs. My birthday is a week from today when I'm recording. But like the longer I live, I'm a young 35-year-old, guys. It's weird to get older. I'll say that. But sorry, I am getting distracted. But the longer I live life, the more life experience that I have. And I do realize that I'm like relatively quite young. But life is inherently uncertain. Like nothing is guaranteed. The future is always unknown. And if we're clinging to certainty, you're always going to feel anxious. I was just going to say, rewind. If you're clinging to certainty, not uncertainty, if you're clinging to certainty, you're always going to feel anxious. And this day is about loosening your grip on your need for control. Can you say, I don't know what's coming, but I trust that I can handle it? Like, can you confidently say that to yourself? And I think getting to a place where you can say, I don't know what's coming, but I trust I can handle it is a really small shift, but is going to reduce a huge load of stress from you because the truth is you can handle it. Like you are capable. You're resilient. Hopefully you've been doing these tools to like build resilience. And you will be able to handle it. You will make it through. And the next time something unexpected happens, maybe pause, take 3 breaths, really slowly breathe in, do like blanking on what it is. It's like you like breathe in for 7 and then you breathe out for 4, something like do like one of those breathing techniques. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but and then just pause and say to yourself, like, this is uncomfortable because you're acknowledging how you feel, but it's not unsafe and I can navigate this. And just like changing that internal dialogue with yourself in your head to like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. I'm never going to be able to get all this done. Like, this is crazy, blah, blah, blah. Changing that internal dialogue is going to change your physiology because your body pays attention to how you talk to yourself in your head. So write this down if you can, make a note in your phone, get a sticky pad out, Write this down. This is uncomfortable, but not unsafe. I can navigate this. And when you find yourself starting to be like, oh, this is uncertain, feeling anxious, like I don't have control, say this to yourself. Take a deep breath, and it will change. I mean, honestly, it'll just change your life. Day two, moving on, is focused on what you can control. And I think this is also really important because there are things within our control, right? You can't control your kids' moods. You can't control your partner's stress. You can't control the state of the world, which is a whole other topic for another day. But you can control your inputs, right? You can control your breath work. Like, are you breathing through the craziness of the day? You can control when you go to bed. You can sit down your phone, you can eat dinner early, you can turn out the lights and just go to bed unapologetically, cancel late night plans. You have control of that. You can control your meals for the most part, right? And this goes back to day one, but you can control your self-talk. You are in control of that. And, I don't want this to just be a motivational poster for you. I want you to understand, like, this is biology. If you focus on what you can influence, this will calm your nervous system. I think too many times we try to focus on what we can't influence that we forget about the things that we actually can. And what this is going to do is it's going to reduce helplessness, it's going to build agency, and it's going to help stave off burnout. So, day two, something to try at the end of each day, asking, what did I influence today? And then you got to celebrate that. Like, so we do a Monday community meeting. We won't be meeting through the month of July because I will be doing some traveling and just generally not available at our normal meeting time. So I decided to take the month of July off. But you have to celebrate the small wins on your health journey because there's going to be plenty of hard days. There's going to be plenty of fails. You got to celebrate the small wins. If you only celebrate the big wins, like you're going to get burned out, you're going to get discouraged. But, if you just drank enough water one day, or maybe you said no to something that typically you would have felt guilty and said yes to, like you got to celebrate that, right? And so like asking yourself this question on day two, what did I influence today? Or like, what did I do that was really good? Like, what did I take control of that I could? That is a huge win, and you got to celebrate. Moving on to day three, you got to train your stress response. And I did an episode, so this is episode 27, episode 25 of the podcast, all about like doing something hard. I'm all about that if you follow me on Instagram. So you should go listen to that episode if you haven't, but this is a big one and it aligns with everything we teach inside of Lifestyle School. We can train our nervous system to recover from stress better, just like we train our muscles in the gym. And this is where like strategic micro doses of stress come in, things like cold exposure, breath work, doing things like time restricted eating, maybe doing some high intensity movement, maybe running around the block first thing in the morning. These short controlled stressors help our body practice entering and exiting a stress state so that when like real big stress or even small stress hits, as we're going through the motions of life, maybe on autopilot a little bit, you're not stuck in the fight or flight. You have this confidence, you have this resilience that, you've been here before. And so you know how to get out of it. You know how to handle it. So doing something on day three, like ending your shower with 30 or 60 seconds of cold water, maybe doing breath work for 30 seconds while seated, maybe fasting, from if you're like a big late night eater from after dinner to breakfast. These are small wins. Maybe it's, running around the block, small wins that are going to build and train your stress response so that you are building a foundation of stress resilience. And this is going to pay off big time in the long term. Day four is about prioritizing rest and recovery. So I want you to really think about this because I think this is important. You can't think your way out of stress. you have to rebuild capacity. I think so many times we try to, think our way out of it, but that's just like not how it works, right? We have to rebuild capacity. And how do we do that? Is we have to rest. And rest is not optional, it's foundational to your health journey. And if you've listened to the podcast for a while, if you've been in lifestyle school, if we've ever done coaching together, I think I say this ad nauseum, but rest is not optional. I want to say rest isn't just sleep, it's anything that shifts you into parasympathetic mode. So this is where you're calm, your calm state, your digest state, your restore state, right? So this could mean quiet mornings, could mean doing breath work, could mean going for a walk without a podcast and just like breathing in the fresh air, listening to the birds. It could be journaling, could be laying down without a screen, or it could be like, giving yourself unstructured time to just be with your thoughts. But we have to prioritize rest and recovery. And sleep is a big part of that, I want to say, but it isn't just sleep. I think foundationally, though, if you're not sleeping, the other part of rest and recovery is going to be really hard. So get that sleep, girl. Get after it. So something to try. Day 4 would be pick a 30-minute window this week to rest without input. I'm not talking about sleep. I'm not talking about work. I'm just talking about stillness. Like, lay on your couch for 30 minutes and just be, and see what happens. Something that I think is really interesting, just around this prioritization of rest and stillness is, I feel like, so with lifestyle school, with my coaching, even with this podcast, I don't think of myself, and maybe this is a wrong thought pattern, but I don't really think about myself as a creative person. But it takes a level of creativity to like create the content and to, produce the podcast and come up with topics and like, where do I want to take the topic and all of this. And sometimes I can feel like I'm just like in a real dead spot. I just have like no ideas. I don't know what to do. And when I prioritize rest and recovery and that stillness piece, I will say I am just like amazed by how my brain changes and like creativity starts to flow. And it's just like such a shift mentally for me, but it takes so much intention of setting my phone down, not being distracted by my phone, by social media, not, constantly listening to things. I love to listen to podcasts, audiobooks. I love to constantly be learning, but I have to just allow that stillness and recovery for creativity to flow. And so I do think this is really important. And I think it really not only has like a healing effect, but I think it helps us reconnect with ourselves and become more of the person we're meant to be when we do that. And so I just want to leave you with that kind of a sidebar. But moving on to day 5 is connection with meaningful people. This, you guys, I keep saying this about all of them, but this is so important and so good. Stress really isolates us. And I will say, if I'm in a really stressful spot, for whatever reason, I am totally guilty of this. I am all about isolating, but connection truly heals us. Like, I don't know, there has been a lot about like blue zones in the news over the last couple of years. It's been a trending topic. And, they're trying to figure out, how do these, different cultures end up with, all these people who live to be centurions, which is over the age of 100. And I think the biggest thing is community and connection. And that is something I think we've really lost here, especially in the United States. We're also individualistic. And I think we say, like our diversity is our strength. But I think there's something wrong with that statement, because I think our connection with community is truly our strength, because like that's where we thrive physically, mentally, emotionally, is when we're connected with other humans, because it's so life-giving, even if you would consider yourself an introvert. Like thinking back to 2020 and the isolation and all of that, it is like incredibly hard and destructive. That was a very hard time, I think, for everyone, for most people. And connection is so important. And so whether it's family, faith, a bigger mission, people who feel anchored to something bigger than themselves handle stress much better. And they don't get swallowed up by the small stuff because they're grounded in purpose. And so I think finding that connection, finding your group of people, finding your purpose, is huge. And, I'll say this, a little personal note. So my family, about a year and a half ago, we were trying to figure out where we were going to move to, where we are going to live, because our plans became disastrous. The plan was like obviously not going to work. And we'd at this time been in California for a year and a half. And I was talking with my husband, and it's like, okay, well, we could move to another part of the country, but we have created such, I don't know if creative is the word, but we have found such incredible community here in the Bay Area through our church, through our homeschool community. Really, I mean, that's where we have found our community. And we didn't want to leave that, honestly. And just to be really honest, the last 2 months for me personally have been really challenging with some health stuff going on. And just to feel my community come around and love me through that process, to show up for me, to bring meals to my door, that is like, I mean, that is like ch groundbreaking. And to be totally honest, like I don't feel in my adult life I have ever found such meaningful and loving community as I have found here. And I'm 35. And so if you can find that, well, I think one, you have to search for it, but it will really change your life and it's going to make, those stressors seem less because you have people coming around you and loving on you. And that is like super, super important. And I think everyone along their health journey needs to find that, whether they find it in a health space, in a church space, or just like a friend group through work. But we need that community. Like, I just believe that's how we were designed to work. And I think, looking at blue zones and, the research that came out of that, I think that also backs it up. Like, we live better, we live longer when we're living together in community with other people who think similarly and encourage us and, call us up to like a higher level of living and purpose. So I'll say with this, I think I've kind of gone on and on and on. Writing down like our why, like why do we want to feel better? Why do we want to embark on this health journey? Why are we doing this work? Like, get connected with your why, keep it visible, and then find people who have a similar vision, and move forward. And if you feel like you don't know anyone on the same health journey, come join our Monday community meetings. Excuse me. We meet on Mondays at 11:30 Pacific Standard Time for 30 minutes. It's quick. It's great, but I share a little bit of educational content, and then we share highs, lows from the week, and then a goal for the upcoming week. And, it's just a way to connect and feel encouraged. And honestly, I started that Monday group because I needed connection around like my own personal health journey. So come join us for that. We will not be meeting though in the month of July. That will resume in August, and you can get on my email list and get on my email list, and then you'll get the link to that in your inbox every Sunday. Day number 6, moving on, is you have to savor the good. So I know I've talked about this before, but stress really narrows our focus, right? And it keeps us scanning for danger. Our brain also has the capacity to scan for beauty, for joy, for wonder, and doing so changes our brain chemistry. I will say naturally, I think I'm someone who's scanning for danger. It's like just more of my personality. But my sister, who is the exact opposite of me in almost every way, she scans for beauty. And I have noticed that. And honestly, it has inspired me. We would be on a walk and she'd be like, oh, Hope, these flowers, they're so beautiful. I need to stop and I need to smell them and I need to take a picture. And I think there's something really beautiful about that. And I have been trying to be more like that because doing this truly changes our brain chemistry and helps us, switch from this fight or flight state to this like focusing on what we control, focusing on the good. Like, can you see the perspective shift here? It's really big, and it can happen really quickly. And so, trying something like setting a timer 3 times a day and ask, what is good in this moment? So maybe in the morning you wake up like, what is good? Maybe it's like you woke up and you didn't feel tired because you went to bed on time. That's great, and savor it and just like kind of be like, this is great. Maybe, your kids woke up and gave you big hugs and were like, you're the best mom ever. Savor that, right? Because, I bet in a couple hours they'll be maybe driving you a little crazy because they're not putting their shoes on and you're trying to get somewhere. That's how long it takes to really rewire our brain towards positivity. And let's be real, there's too many things in the world to be negative about. Like, let's start to be positive people who savor the good, who focus on the good in ourselves, and also focus on the good in others. And honestly, I think as a culture, if we could do that, that would just fix so many problems and bring people together and start conversations that need to be had versus all the vitriol and, the stress and the hatred. Moving on, day 7 is realize your recovery, or not realize, ritualize your recovery. So this is where things become real. What do you do daily, and what tells your body you're safe? Maybe it's a morning walk. Maybe it's a few minutes of journaling. Maybe it's a midday stretch or a screen-free hour. These aren't luxuries. I want you to know that they are actually lifelines. Creating recovery rituals that are going to help you get to the place that you want to be, help you become the person you want to be, help get you to the health that you want to be at. This is essential for recovery. And, we talk about in lifestyle school all the time is you have to start creating systems and habits that are in line with your long-term health goals. Because if it doesn't become ritualized, if it doesn't become like a system in your life, if it doesn't become a habit, it's really not going to happen, guys. I hate to break it to you. Because we typically don't do things that don't eventually feel easy, right? And that's why it has to become like an automatic thing that we do. So like maybe that's waking up right away in the morning and going for that, hard run around the block. Or maybe it's going to the gym right after work every day because you have your gym bag in the car. You're ready to go and you're not going home in between. Choose one recovery ritual and commit to it for the next 7 days and make it a non-negotiable, just like you would, brushing your teeth. And this is really going to change how you start to think about your recovery. So let's bring it home. Everything we just talked about is what we're already doing inside of lifestyle school. And this is why it works. Because yes, we work on nutrition, we work on fasting, we talk and work on movement, but none of this sticks unless your nervous system feels safe, unless your stress is dialed down, and unless your body is told day after day, it's okay, you're safe to heal. So if you've been working hard on food, but maybe you're still not seeing the results, I want you to look at your stress and look at your habits. And I also want you to look at your recovery. So here's an invitation this week. Pick one of the 7 tools from Dr. Epel's prescription. Start there, practice it for 7 days. And, if you want accountability, shoot me a message on Instagram. I'm over there at Hope Plaque Coaching, and tell me which one you're choosing. Honestly, I would love to cheer you on. And because, this isn't about eliminating stress. It's about changing your relationship with it, because unfortunately, stress is just a part of life that we can't escape from. And so we have to start changing our relationship with it. And, again, this isn't just mindset work. This is biology. This is metabolic health. This is healing. And I want you to know that you can do this. You've got this. I'm proud of you. And I totally believe you can start taking agency in this area of your health, and you will not regret it. So with that, guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to the show, give us a 5-star review, leave a comment. I would feel so grateful if you would do that, and then share it with a friend. And with that, guys, we will see you next time on the Lifestyle School podcast.